And hello, everyone. Let's do a sound check. Make sure you hear me. So just a moment. Let's see. All right, sounds good. So welcome in, everyone. Happy Friday. I apologize for the tardiness, but hey, we got a late night show tonight. So strap in, get ready. It's going to be interesting. And I want to say hello to everyone who's here before we get started. So we got that too. So let's see. Who are we welcoming in tonight? Let's see. Pertinent was first here. What's up, Pertinent? All right. Also, K Miri. K Miri sends a 4.99 super chat. Thank you, K Miri, for the 4.99 super chat. And Prof, just want you to know I am so thankful for all you do to bring us the truth. You're wise and brave. Thank you. All right. Deb. Welcome, Deb. Welcome, Dieter. Welcome, Tammy Martin, Scott LaFleur, Lisa, Mino Dino, um, Sweet Dude Shibby. Pertinent says hello to everybody. Welcome in Heather Brown. Okay, Samantha Springman for her baby daddy. Tammy Martin. Uh, Heather Brown's talking about pickles for some reason. Twinkies and pickles says for baby daddy. All right, we got Muty Silence. Hello to you. How are you, Muty? All right, Pertinent. Like I said, Samantha Springman's here. For baby daddy. There we go. Kate Eleanor. Hello to you. Welcome, Kate. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Miss Pie Crust. Hello to you. Um, Dieter. Lisa. Carol. Hey, Carol. Rebecca Ann. What's up, Rebecca Ann? All right. What else we got in here? Mino Dino's talking. All right. What's up, Mino? Gosh, I'm trying to do too many things. Let's see. All right. Carol, we got Pertinent. There we go. All right. Quad's here. What's up, Quad? All right. Sunflower Lola, hello to you. Kate Eleanor. All right. Tammy Martin. Hey, Dieter. All right. Sweet Dude Shippy. Brenda Mays. What's up, Brenda? All right. Court of Public Opinion. Hello to you. Yes, it's a late show tonight. Welcome all your friends in, please. Let everyone know we're live. Uh, really ridiculous to be this late because I know a lot of you guys go to bed early. What's up, Granny D? Teresa, hello to you. All right. Critter Mama, hello. Coming on in. Who's your daddy? 11. What's up? All right. Bonnie, hello. Hey, Bonnie. Big JD, what's up, Big JD? Carla saying hello to everybody. Aaron Town. All right. It's pretty late for you. Geez, what are you doing up? Okay. I think we got every. Hey, there's nobody, nothing. 1717. Good to see you. Okay, so I think we caught everybody. Gretchen, where's Gretchen? Oh, there she is. No, that's not Gretchen. There's Gretchen. Got you. Okay, welcome in, everybody. Jeez, man. So, it's been a long day, y'all. It's been a real long day. I had so much to do, and I got a lot done, and I had fun times with the young one. And so, geez, I'm just running real late, running like 2 hours late with everything tonight. But we're gonna do our Friday night show, okay? And oh, well, so our show tonight is called the Prof Friday Night Fights, Round 11, the Delphi, Mean Girls, Discovery Leaks, Tony Liggett's, Pat Cicero's, and Brian Harshman's BS, and otherwise FAFO. Um, Now, part of the delay was I was really trying to get, pardon me, Andrew Baldwin's interview up for you, but I just had the hardest time. I wasn't able to do it in time. So we're going to skip that. But it's highly recommended. Okay. 21 Alive. You can go watch it. I highly recommend going watch the Andy Baldwin interview over there. Um, so go ahead and do it. It's a good one. Okay. It's a good one. All right. So, um, anyway, so before we get into it, I thought it'd be worth doing a couple things. So let me get my computer up. Let's see. All right. This one is going to be. Mhm. All right. So, first of all, let's see. Get this going. All right. Now, let's see. Okay. All right. Now, we are ready to go. So, just give me a moment. I'll get this all opened up and we'll get going. Let's see. I got to go to do this, do this, do this, do this. All right. All right, guys. So, this is my Substack. Okay, so everyone go subscribe to my Substack. It's over there at readtheprof.substack.com. Okay, and so this is from a post I did on August 1st, 2025. Okay, on August 1st, 2025, and you may remember that for months now, actually since March 12th of this year. So we're approaching the 6 month mark, I believe. Isn't it six? Let's see. Well, let's say five. Okay, we'll say 5 months mark. So we're approaching the 5 month mark where I asked some questions to a group of individuals who had leaked a video, the biggest video in the Delphi case, onto the community. And it's here where I made it easy for them in drafting 10 questions in a very easy to read format. And I remember that when I finally put this together in a written format as this, I thought, hey, surely it'll be easy to answer these questions now because they're written down. They're not just me speaking and asking questions. They're questions that are written down on paper to make it very easy to read. Therefore, you can very easily read the question. Say, for instance, this one, you can read the question and you can think about what you want your answer to be, and then you could answer it. But oddly enough, with all of this uh, making it easy, I still didn't get any questions from the Mean Girls answered. So not one of these questions has been answered. And these are very simple questions. For instance, the first one says, how did the video from Liberty German's phone extraction get onto the website, and whose hands did it pass through between it leaving Baldwin's office and it being posted on the website? Simple questions like that that should be absolutely the easiest to answer in the world. Okay. And I asked several. I asked the same question. Basically, that's the question, but I asked it in about 10 or 15 different ways to make it very easy to try to answer. But obviously, no answers. But I did get a bunch of clapback. And so, for instance, this is one of them. Okay, which is says, "Hey, the prof, since you're so experienced in the law from your Chat GPT education, would you mind telling us why ABC producers are risking taking part in likely illegal activity by sharing the BG video to the masses?" Well, dumbass, first of all, sharing the video among each other is not a crime. Okay, if you're sharing discovery that has been leaked by an attorney, uh, that's that's not illegal. Okay. The illegal part is the sharing of discovery by an attorney, but that seems to escape you since you don't think much. Okay. So this whole thing about this is called a straw man argument, making it look like I am ridiculous for classifying this activity of leaking this video likely illegal. Yes, it is likely illegal for an attorney to do who was privy to the discovery, but it is not illegal for some random dude who drinks too much, who's sitting around on the internet to share. Neither is it illegal for ABC to share because it's already out there thanks to you guys. Okay. And thanks to the attorney who decided to risk his career in leaking it. Okay, but let's continue because that's not the point of this. Okay. Uh, Here's the point of this. Okay, so what I did is I wanted to lay out for the reader the reasons that this is not good behavior. Okay, and this is called the Indiana Rules of Trial Procedure, Rule 26, General Provisions Governing Discovery. Okay, and I copy pasted this over from rules.incourts.gov, you see. And see, I even put the link here because I'm nice. So I put the link here so you can go to this link and see that I'm not lying. These are the actual Indiana Rules of Trial Procedure. And this is actually Rule 26, General Provisions Governing Discovery. And this was effective as of January 1st, 2013. C, protective orders. Upon motion by any party or person from whom discovery is sought, and for good cause shown, the court in which the action is pending, or alternatively on matters relating to a deposition in the court where the county where the deposition is being taken, may make any order which justice requires to protect a party or person from annoyance, embarrassment, oppression, or undue burden or expense, including one or more of the following. One, discovery not be had. The discovery may be had only on specified terms and conditions, including designation of time or place. The discovery may be had only by a method of discovery other than that selected by the party seeking discovery. That certain matters not be inquired into, or that the scope of the discovery be limited to certain matters. That discovery be conducted with no one present except the parties and their attorneys and the persons designated by the court. That a deposition, after being sealed, be open only by order of the court. That a trade secret or other confidential research, development, or commercial information not be disclosed or disclosed only in a designated way. That the parties simultaneously file specified documents or information enclosed in sealed envelopes to be opened as directed by the court. If the motion for a protective order is denied in whole or in part, the court may on such terms, conditions as are just, order that any party or person provide or permit discovery. The provisions of Trial Rule 37A4 apply to the award of expenses incurred in relation to the motion. 9, that a party need not provide discovery of electronically stored information from sources that the party identifies as not reasonably accessible because of undue burden or cost. On motion to compel discovery for a protective order, the party from whom discovery is sought must show that the information is not reasonably accessible because of undue burden or cost. If that showing is made, the court may nonetheless order discovery from such sources. If the requesting party shows good cause, the court may specify conditions for discovery. Additionally, rules.incourts.gov content, proof conduct rule 1.6 current, Indiana rules of professional conduct for attorneys, rule 1.6 confidentiality of information, effective January 1st, 2005. A lawyer shall not reveal information relating to representation of a client unless the client gives informed consent. The disclosure is impliedly authorized in order to carry out the representation, or the disclosure is permitted by paragraph B. B says a lawyer may reveal information relating to the representation of a client to the extent the lawyer reasonably believes necessary, one, to prevent reasonably certain death or substantial bodily harm, two, to prevent the client from committing a crime or from committing fraud that is reasonably certain to result in a substantial injury to the financial interest or property of another, and in furtherance of which the client has used or is using the lawyer's services. Three, to prevent, mitigate, or rectify substantial injury to the financial interest or property of another that is reasonably certain to result or has resulted from the client's commission of a crime or fraud in furtherance of which the client has used the lawyer's services. Four, to secure legal advice about the lawyer's compliance with these rules, to establish a claim or defense on behalf of the lawyer in a controversy between the lawyer and the client, to establish a defense to a criminal charge or civil claim against the lawyer based upon conduct in which the client was involved, or to respond to allegations in any proceeding concerning a lawyer's representation of the client, or to comply with the law or court order. C, in the event of a lawyer's physical or mental disability or appointment of a guardian or conservator of an attorney's client files, disclosure of a client's name and files is authorized to the extent necessary to carry out the duties of the person managing the lawyer's files. So, sounds to me like Rick Allen doesn't tick any of these boxes. You get it? And remember, these are the rules of professional conduct for the attorneys handling the discovery. And specifically, as ordered from the court, media would not be culpable, dumbass, nor would any YouTubers, etc. However, an attorney or any employee thereof would totally be effed. Now grow up, please. Judge Gull enters a protective order governing discovery on February 17th, 2023. Comes now the court, the state of Indiana, by Nicholas McClellan, prosecuting attorney, having filed his motion requesting protective order governing discovery, and the court being duly advised in the premises now grants said motion. And here's the order. Okay. This says that one copy of the discovery material shall be provided to counsel for the defendant. That no additional copies of the discovery shall be provided or shall be made by the defendant, defendant's counsel, investigator, expert, or any other representative or agent of the defendant for any reason. That the discovery material shall not be used for the purpose or any purpose other than to prepare for the defense in the above referenced cause number. 4, that the discovery material shall not be publicly exhibited. Let's read that again for those in the back. That the discovery material shall not be publicly exhibited, displayed, shown, used for educational, research, or demonstrative purposes, or used in any other manner except in judicial proceedings in the above referenced action. 5, that the discovery material may be viewed only by parties, counsel, and counsel's investigators and experts. 6, that if copies of the discovery material are made and provided to the defendant, investigators, or experts for the defense, that sensitive and private information contained in the discovery shall be redacted, including any social security numbers, IDAC information, or NCIC information, any information related to the personal information of juveniles, including social security numbers, names, and date of birth, and any FBI Sentinel information. 7, that none of the discovery material shall be divulged to any person not authorized to view the discovery material. This includes other witnesses, family members, relatives, and friends of the defendant. 8, that no person other than the defendant, counsel for the defendant, and those persons listed in paragraph 5 shall be granted access to said discovery material or the substance of any portion thereof, unless that person has signed an agreement in writing that he or she has received a copy of this order and that he or she submits to the court's jurisdiction and authority with respect to the discovery, agrees to be subject to the court's contempt powers for any violation of this order, and is granted prior permission by this court to access said discovery. 9, that upon final disposition of the case, this is important, once again, number 9, upon final disposition of the case, The discovery material referred to in paragraph 1 and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office or maintained by defense counsel pursuant to the terms herein. 10. That the counsel for the defendant shall be responsible to ensure that all persons involved in the defense of this case, including Michael Osbrook and Matthew Hoffman, comply with this order. That the written documents and records provided by the state within discovery fall under the same rules as described above. That means all written reports, all written tips, all written police reports, anything that's a written document also provided within discovery fall under these rules. So ordered this 17th day of February 2023. Okay? Is there anything ambiguous about this? Okay? In Indiana, leaking discovery, even unintentionally, can lead to serious ethical breaches under the rules of professional conduct. Unless this disclosure is clearly authorized by the client or through a valid exception or court order, attorneys must maintain confidentiality of all discovery materials. Engaging in unauthorized disclosure risks discipline such as suspension or disbarment, as well as court sanctions. Okay? Is anything about that unclear? Let me remove it for a moment and reset. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this for you. Let's see. Thanks everybody who's coming in. I see you coming in. Just welcome on in. I'm a little busy at the moment, so we'll just carry forward. Okay. All right. Next up, I'm going to show you this. All right. This is Adrian's page. You guys know Adrian. Adrian made a post. Adrian said, August 8th, 2025. Leaking discovery helps the real killers walk free. She says, leaking discovery from an ongoing case, which it is for the public unconvinced of Rick's guilt, is an absolute gift to the guilty. Every leak makes it harder to hold the actual perpetrators accountable. Witness contamination. Once interviews and reports are public, witnesses can unconsciously change their stories to match what they've read from the fucking discovery that you've leaked. And defense attorneys use that to shred credibility in court. Tipping off the guilty. Real offenders learn exactly what investigators know and what they don't. That gives them time to destroy evidence, craft airtight alibis, or silence people who might be willing to talk. Evidentiary landmines. A future suspect's lawyer can argue their client's right to a fair trial was destroyed by pretrial publicity, which can get evidence thrown out or charges dropped. Losing guilt knowledge details. Some facts are kept secret so that only the true offender can confirm them. Once those facts are leaked, copycats and or trolls can flood the system with fake confessions and false leads. Forcing investigators' hands. Leaks can pressure good police into conforming or denying sensitive facts, which exposes even more of the case to the wrong people. We've seen this before, like in the Lauren Spierer case, disappearance, where leaked interviews gave suspects time to adjust and change their stories. In the BTK case, media leaks about binding methods invited copycats and stalled progress. Rick Allen is very likely uninvolved with anything to do with the murders of Abby and Libby. And every single leak doesn't just damage his right to due process and a successful second trial or retrial, it's very possibly helping whoever did kill Abby and Libby stay free. And here's the mic drop: leaking discovery is not transparency, it's sabotage. We recommend contacting Rick Allen's trial attorneys, Andy Baldwin or Brad Rozzi, and the Indianapolis FBI field office. You may also try contacting the offices of the Carroll County prosecutor, the Indiana Attorney General, Indiana State Police, or whoever you can. Someone somewhere has to pretend to care, even if it's just for optics. If enough of you viewers, that's you out there listening right now, if enough of you viewers make enough of a big deal, someone will be forced to intervene in this situation. And here's the contact information for the Indiana field office of the FBI in Indianapolis, the Indiana Attorney General, the Indiana State Police, the Carroll County Prosecutor, the Criminal Defense Team of Baldwin, Perry, and Camish and PC, Hillis, Rozzi, and Dean. And I would furthermore recommend that you send complaints to Stacy Uliana and Mark Lehman. Okay. Furthermore, there's a general tip information at the FBI. You can send in general computer-based tips over into the FBI without having to call the local field office. And just a moment, there's more. All right, and here you have the Indiana Judicial Branch file a complaint against a lawyer disciplinary complaint form. Okay, and I'll put this one here. Okay, you can go here, and let me see if I can blow this up for you in any way. It says, what do I do if I have a complaint against a lawyer? It's always a good idea to try to work things out with your lawyer informally. If that doesn't work, you may file a grievance with the Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission. To file a grievance, you must complete and submit a request for investigation form. Okay, this form is found below, or you can request a form be mailed to you by contacting the Disciplinary Commission office at 317-232-1807. You can submit this form in one of two ways: open and complete the form, save it to your computer, attach it along with any supporting documents. Okay, when emailing a fillable PDF, save the form using the print as PDF option. If you do not know how to print as PDF, make sure you have the most current version of Adobe Reader and see the tutorial. Complete the form and mail it to Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission, 251 North Illinois Street, Suite 500, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. A valid complaint must include your name, address, contact info, okay? The name of the attorney, And I would recommend to report the attorney who is leaking discovery, okay? Please report the attorney. Everyone listening, please take your time tomorrow and report the attorney who is leaking discovery in this case. You need to include the cause number related to the matter, and that's you can find that on my case at Richard Allen. Okay. A short, detailed written statement of the attorney's specific conduct in terms of leaking discovery, uh, which is unethical. You can also go ahead and go and check out my content, okay? Because as you guys know, I have content. Let me remove this for a moment. I have content that is, I called it the professionals 1, 2, and 3. So I have 3 episodes in which we read through the Indiana rules uh, for attorneys. You can go and watch those videos, okay? The Professionals 1, the Professionals 2, the Professionals 3. We go through the complete rules of whatever it's called. I'm forgetting now. What is it? Let me go back to it and make sure that I'm saying it the right way. Let's see. It's at Indiana Rules of Professional Conduct, okay, which is thoroughly covered. We read through literally every word in there in the Professionals Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, okay? So you can go watch those 3 episodes and you can jot down any of the parts or the places in the rules of professional conduct where you have seen anomalies from these attorneys in this case. And that goes for any attorney who's touched this case, especially those who've committed wrongs. Okay, you can go in listen to the rules of professional conduct in my episode 1, 2, 3 of the professionals. You cite the paragraph where they are skirting the rules, and then go ahead and go to that form, fill it out, and submit your concerns to the Indiana Disciplinary Commission of the Supreme Court. Okay. Now, furthermore, all right, furthermore, let's do this. Is it considered unethical for an attorney to leak discovery in a criminal case? Yes. Even if it isn't just outright illegal, leaking discovery in a criminal case is widely considered unethical for an attorney. Here's why. Duty of confidentiality. Lawyers have a professional obligation under the rules of professional conduct to protect client confidences and sensitive case information. Discovery in a criminal case often contains material covered by court protective orders, privacy rules, or even classified sensitive law enforcement information. Leaking it can violate that duty. Potential violation of court orders. Criminal discovery is often governed by a protective order or explicit instructions from the judge. Leaking information in defiance of those orders can lead to contempt charges or sanctions. Even without a formal order, judges expect lawyers to act in ways that protect the integrity of the trial. Harm to due process. Prematurely releasing discovery can taint the jury pool, damage reputations, or expose witnesses to intimidation or harm. The attorney's role is to ensure a fair trial, not to play the case out in the media. Ethical rule violations in Indiana and most states, Rule 3.6 of the Rules of Professional Conduct limits extrajudicial statements made by attorneys if they are likely to materially prejudice a proceeding. Rule 1.6 covers confidentiality of information, and a leak without proper authorization would likely breach it. Professional consequences. Even if criminal charges aren't filed and an attorney can face bar discipline, an attorney can face bar discipline, suspension, or disbarment for such conduct. Yes, it is unethical because it breaches professional duties, undermines the fairness of the trial, and risks severe legal and professional consequences. If you want, I can pull the exact Indiana ethics rules and show you how they apply to a discovery leak scenario in a criminal case. That would make the answer airtight. And I'll say this, I'll say how, sorry about that. I'll say how about in a post-conviction scenario? Even in a post-conviction scenario, leaking discovery can still be considered unethical for an attorney. It just plays out under a slightly different set of risks. Ethical duties don't end when the trial does. In Indiana and most jurisdictions, a lawyer's duty of confidentiality under Rule 1.6 is permanent. It survives the end of the case and even the client's death. That means an attorney cannot decide the case is over so I can release the files now. That means an attorney cannot decide the case is over so I can release the files now. Once again, that means an attorney cannot decide the case is over so I can release the files now, unless the client gives informed consent or disclosure is otherwise legally authorized, for example, required by a court order. Protective orders often survive conviction. Many criminal discovery materials, especially those involving minors, sexual offenses, wiretaps, confidential informants, or ongoing investigations, are released under a protective order. Those orders do not automatically expire when the trial ends. They remain binding until the court modifies or lifts them. Didn't you just hear me read Judge Gull's protective order from February 17th, 2023? That's right, February 17th, 2023. I just read it to you. That was Judge Gull's protective order over discovery, and this is referencing the protective order over discovery in the context of a post-conviction phase. Furthermore, ongoing risks to due process. Even after conviction, there may be pending appeals, post-conviction relief petitions, co-defendant trials, related investigations. Leaking discovery could prejudice those proceedings or harm witnesses. Professional misconduct exposure. If the leak violates Rule 1.6, confidentiality, Rule 3.6, trial publicity, if other proceedings are ongoing, Rule 8.4, conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation, or conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice, then the attorney can still face bar discipline even years after the case's conclusion. Possible legal liability. Protective order violations can bring contempt charges. That's right. That discovery is still under protective order, which can bring contempt charges. If discovery contains victim or witness personal information, as the discovery released about a week or two ago did, leaking it could violate privacy laws and create civil liability. Bottom line, post-conviction does not mean free to leak unless the client consents, and no legal orders or statutes bar disclosure. An attorney who leaks discovery is still treading in clearly unethical and possibly unlawful territory. Okay? Have I made my point there? So let me say this. I think it should be very clear to all of you that there are some individuals who are participating in the leaking of discovery from Richard Allen's case, okay? This case is still ongoing. The discovery materials are still under protective order, still under the jurisdiction of Judge Gull. Those who had been legally employed in some way under the umbrella of Andy Baldwin's office are still under the jurisdiction of the court, which means Judge Gull could issue contempt charges, other sanctions, and there's possible disbarment, and et cetera, et cetera. So let's be clear here. There has been a rash of discovery leaks in the past 2 weeks. I'm not going to call them all out to you, but I think you should see what they are and where they're coming from. And there's absolutely no question about it. It's very obvious who they're coming from. It's very obvious what the strategy is. You know, the strategy right now is to put shit on a Google Drive and then to let 5 or 6 people uh, do the leaking on social media on your behalf. So, look, let this be a fair warning to everyone that everything is being reported, everything is being noted, everything is being documented. This drip should stop immediately. Okay. Uh, Anyhow, that's going to cover the first part of the show tonight. Okay. Now, I'm not going to argue about it. I'm not going to call any names. And I'm not going to look the other way. I recommend that every single viewer in the sound of my voice go ahead and follow up on the resources that were provided, report these leaks to the FBI, the ISP, the CCSO, and the Disciplinary Commission of the Supreme Court of Indiana. Okay? Now, furthermore, I should note that there are possible legal consequences that are being looked into and that may be followed up upon by certain parties to this case. So I would highly recommend the individuals participating in this, especially any of the people tied to the attorneys who may have been under the direct employ of the attorneys in any way whatsoever, stop it immediately, because people are concerned about what is going on and actions are being taken. Okay. So let's move into phase two. Um, Tonight, we're going to look at phase two, which is Tony Liggett, Pat Cicero, and Brian Harshman. Why, Prof? Well, I'll tell you why. Because these officers were allowed to do the unthinkable in this trial. That's right. In the trial of Richard Allen, these law enforcement officers were allowed to take the stand with the full power, authority, and credibility of the state of Indiana behind them. And they were allowed to convey untruths to the jurors. Okay. Now, you think about it. If it was you on trial, okay, if it was you, if you were on trial and a law enforcement officer, even just one, was allowed to sit on the stand and lie to the jury with the full uniform and the power of the state that you reside in behind him, would you feel that was okay? Or would you feel violated, like something very wrong had happened? Okay? Now, what if it was two? Oh, yeah. Well, how about if it was three? How do you think Richard Allen felt sitting there when a minimum of three law enforcement officers were allowed to sit there with the full respect, dignity, power, and authority of the state of Indiana behind them and convey mistruths or untruths to the jury? That's right. It happened. And tonight, we're going to take a little look at how it happened. Okay? And that's what we're going to be getting into. So let's see if I can get some things together here. We're going to start low key and gradually escalate in insanity as we review the things that transpired in the courtroom that we were not privy to and the cameras were not privy to, but thank goodness we have this transcript that we can look at and take a look at how these law enforcement officers were able to sit there and lie to the jury and get away with it in order to Richard Allen on behalf of the state of Indiana. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm a little dehydrated. It was really hot out there today. But listen up, guys. I'm going to start a goal here. Please support the channel in whatever way possible. Um, I got to get something together here. Let's see. I'm going to put up a goal. Let's see. Get this started. All right, we got the goal going. All right, now I got to go to top chat because I always forget. All right, so please hit the goal. We also have a Cash App pinned at the top of the chat. Uh, Cash App, buy me a coffee, and whatever. Okay, let's take a look here at this. I want to take a look at. This is the examination of Pat Cicero. Okay, thank you, Rebecca Ann. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks, Prof and chat. Awesome. All right. You guys remember to click the little target icon with the goal up there in order for it to go towards a goal. I don't know why it's that way, but it seems to be that way. But thank you very much. So listen, here is a direct exam of Pat Cicero. Okay, so it's going to take a moment here too. Let's see. Now remember, the state of Indiana don't like Christine and Erica, the investigators. Isn't that right? Wasn't Pat Cicero involved in this with Erica? Now let's see. Here we go. So I'm going to skip. You know, you'll notice with all of these law enforcement officers, with every single one of them, what they do is when they first sit on the stand, they ask them how long they've been working, how many awards they received, how badass they are, how authoritative they are, why they should be listened to and respected. They, I mean, goddamn, like it's really sickening because, like I said, this guy's about to basically lie to the jury, but before he lies, he gets to do 5 minutes of self certification here. You know, talking about how, you know, he was a detective for over 20 years and da da da, and at 9 years chief of the da da da, in charge of civil and charge of this, a lot of budget and da da da, and I'm 24 years, and really laying down a sort of a curriculum vitae or resume. He's building the foundation for why he's an authority and should be listened to and respected and believed by the jury. And every single time they do it. So, see, goes on and on and on. He's certified crime scene investigator. Da 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 da. Okay. All right. So we're going to skip a lot of this. He's talking about how awesome he is at blood stain pattern analysis and just he's amazing at what he does and da 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 da. Yeah. But this is how this works. Okay. Hey, thank you everybody who's sending the little super chats. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. It's hard for me to keep up with them while I'm reading, so apologize. All right. All right, so we're going to skip forward because this is not what's so necessary. You see, he goes on. Da, 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 he's trying to basically say or teach remember that the ballistics expert also did this, quote unquote. They tried to, I don't know, what do you call it? Edutain, edutain the jury, teach them real quick. They give an informants, we're going to teach you real quick what blood is and what a splatter is. Anyway, all right, so and gonna, why don't you say the name drop? I've been on National Forensic Academy with the Tennessee Law Enforcement. Da 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 da. Okay. Um. Now look. First alarm bells should go off. It's going to drop down here. Drop down here to line number 16. Did you go to the crime scene? Yes. On April 4th, 2024. This is not a joke. Yeah. On April 4th, 2024, I went to the crime scene. All right. But here we go. We're starting to get to where we need to be. But I saw a lot of photographs. He's getting into the photograph. I saw a lot of photographs. Okay. Boom. Okay. Blah 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 blah. Photographs of the scene. Photographs. Still talking about photographs. Okay. Ba da 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 da. I went to the photographs. Okay. Um. Now let's see. Let me read down here. We're going to get towards the middle or bottom of the page where he says, "This is a closer exposure of the tree with a blood stain that is at this location, approximately 4 feet from the base of the tree. And you see the decedents in the background." So he's talking about a crime scene photo we have not seen, which is a photo of the tree with the blood stain, with the victims in the background in the same frame. Okay. And he says it's a close up of the tree with a measuring device. Yes, it's a close up of the blood stain upon that tree with the scale to provide reference as to how large it is. Utilizing the scale, it measures. All right, so here's where this is where we put our thinking caps on. Okay. Get your notebooks out. This is where we take note now. We're actually, what is this? 30 pages in. Okay, 29 pages in. And we're finally getting to what matters here. And he says, utilizing the scale, it measures approximately 1.37 inches across, this horizontal stain. And I believe it's 5.9 inches from the top to the bottom. So it's not a large stain. As well as in this area of the pattern, there were additional stains that measure approximately less than 1 to 3 millimeters in size. And with blood stain pattern analysis, we measure in metric. These stains were round and consistent with what's referred to as spatter. 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 It's not splatter, it's spatter. And that is a mechanism to which, when force is applied to blood, some type of force, blood becomes individual drops and made contact with the tree. This stain, the large stain that I just described, is consistent with what's referred to as a transfer stain. And a transfer stain is nothing more than a bloody object coming in contact with the tree. Likewise, there are stains on peripheral of this stain right here that are also several contact stains, contact transfer, if you will. This particular stain on the right of the stain in the center is also consistent with a transfer stain. Okay? So you've previously used a designation to describe the shape of an upside down L. Is that correct? That is correct. I describe this as an upside down L. And around that upside down L are various, as you described, spatter, just as the jury's looking at it, to the left. And then a larger than the spatter, a portion right there adjacent to the vertical portion of the upside down L right there. Yes, sir. And you're saying around the corner, around the tree, you see there's photographs of other blood on that tree. Yes, sir. What are we looking at? Yes, sir. I believe this is the blood stain that's approximately 2 feet from the base, more on the north side of the tree, and it's consistent with transfer stains. And the area located here in the photograph, here, you see it looks a little bit darker. That is consistent with blood accumulating. There's more volume, and as it dries, it becomes dark brown, almost black. Did I put that photograph in upside down, sir? I don't believe so, but then again, I'm not real sure. But then again, maybe you did because the leaves are up there. It looks like I had flipped it. My apologies. Blah, 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 blah. As you walk towards the jury and show that it's in the proper configuration, right side up. Okay. Just a moment. All right. So he goes on and on. On and on and on, okay? Um, you see? Now, he's talking about all of the blood on the hands. And he says, given the injuries to her neck and given this pattern, do you have an opinion for the jury as to positioning when that pattern landed on her thigh? The best explanation for the appearance of this particular projected pattern is that Liberty German would have probably been seated at one point for the wound to be somewhat over the leg and to come straight down, and then for the flow patterns to have occurred while the blood was still wet. Okay? This reinforces the fact that this is a projected pattern. We see the individual drops were voluminous. We also see what's referred to as these little arms that's called scallops. That's showing energy. And the type of energy that's applied to this type of projected pattern, it's what's called hydrostatic pressure, meaning it's the cardiovascular system pumping out blood and the blood hitting the leg, creating that pattern. Okay? And says, here's her face. Examine that before coming to your conclusions. Yes, sir. You testified about altered blood pattern. Would you tell the jury what you mean by altered blood pattern? Any blood pattern that originates and has its subsequent alteration, usually in the realm of the transfer stains, where we call it a swipe, where blood is on an object and you can see movement, or a transfer stain, that's referred to as a wipe, where blood is existing one like the leg, for example, and something just wipes through it. We see many of these wipes on the body itself. What did you find what you believed on the body of LG, altered blood patterns? Yes, consistent with the legs, with the projected pattern, where especially going into the interior portion of the leg, there's alterations, as well as a torso area where something wiped or swiped through the blood, so it's an altered state as a result. Okay, so extending from the eye down to the ear, as we can see, it gets lighter and lighter, and it's still maintaining on the peripheral of the stain a darker appearance. This is textbook consistent with dilution or dilution. With all the blood under her nose and extending down from that across her right cheek, does it give the appearance that she's bleeding from her nose? It gives the appearance. But we know from the postmortem or her autopsy that she did not have injuries to her nose. What would have happened is the blood being fluid and it takes the path of least resistance. Gravity would have occurred where her head would have had to have been lower than where the blood source was located. So it's indicative of movement. Do you believe Liberty German was moved after she died or after she was unconscious? Yes. And would that movement have resulted in this distribution or this pattern of blood? Yes, it could have. Yes. This is the photograph of before she is moved or her body is being moved, but before she is removed from the location. Tell the jury what you found significant about this photograph showing the back and the leaves adhering to her back. Along the leg, there's blood staining. There's blood staining on the leg as well. This is to the right of the leg. As we observed in previous photographs, I've noted the blood on the side, underneath, on the interface between the ground and the leg, and on the back side. And what, again, my apologies. And what we see is also because of the adhesive nature of blood, the leaves are sticking to the blood. Okay. This photograph is showing Liberty after she's been moved. An examination, did you find anything significant about this photograph? Yes, it was just a little bit of blood on these leaves located where Liberty German was discovered. Ah, you hear that? A little bit of blood located on the leaves where she's discovered. This would indicate that she's no longer bleeding, because if she was, she was still alive and bleeding. We'd expect to see pooling. Okay. Now we're going to look at photographs of Abby Williams. Is that correct? Yes, sir. What did you find significant about this photograph? There was, according to DNA reports and crime scene photos, this is the only area of blood for Abigail Williams. You can see that there is what appears to be a small pooling to the right of her arm and shoulder. The injury to Abigail is on the left side of her neck. And I believe we'll see better photographs of the area underneath the body and in this dark hoodie sweatshirt that is very much saturated. Also of interest is her final positioning. I described it as somewhat pugilistic pose, meaning pugilistic is almost like boxing, but her hands are up and bent at the elbows and close to her body. Did you examine a multitude of photographs of the sweatshirt while it was on her body? And then you also viewed the sweatshirt up close? That's correct. And that occurred April 5th, 2024. Now the sleeves have been pulled down. What do you notice about this photograph? What I noticed about this photograph, contrary to what we've observed with Liberty, there was no blood stains observed on Abby's hands. Likewise, I observed many different photos of Abigail Williams at the crime scene in different views, different angles, different lighting. I could not observe any blood stains that were on the sleeves or the arms of Abigail Williams. Now, you've observed several autopsy photographs as well. And in fact, did you see anything different on her hands at the autopsy? The autopsy photos, her hands did have blood on them, her arms and hands. Was she wearing the sweatshirt at the time in the autopsy when she had photographs with blood on her hands? I have no data that anything was taken off Abigail Williams. But in the photograph, she's not wearing a sweatshirt, was she? I understand your question. Yes, she was not wearing the sweatshirt at the time of the autopsy. And then look how awkward this moment is. And he switches. And you visited the scene yourself? Yes, I did. And you know that they had to be carried out with assistance of some kind of cart. Is that your understanding? That's what I was informed. And you know that the hills between them and the area of the cemetery up above is very steep. And in your experience, how many death scenes have you been to? Hundreds, sir. Would it be unusual for the blood? What would be the normal course of the blood when she has been placed into a bag and moved up that hill and transported to a van to go to the morgue? Sure, well, blood, it should be noted that in my analysis and my report, I noted the blood was still wet and dried and coagulated. Movement of the body within a body bag could somehow affect all of the saturation if blood stains were still wet on the actual shirt or the sweatshirt itself. So during transport, manipulation of the body, picking the body up, more blood stains could transfer as a result of those actions. In fact, in these photographs, we see no blood. The crime scene photos of Abby's hands. That's correct. Neither the hands nor the sleeves. And there's many other photographs of her hands and sleeves as well. Given your personal observation of this sweatshirt and your examination of the photographs at the crime scene, would removal of the sweatshirt have changed or altered the blood pattern on her body in any way? More than likely, yes. This photograph is another. Now the hands are still within the sweatshirt. What did you find important about this photograph? As you stated, the hands are in the sweatshirt. The sticks were removed at the point where these photographs were taken and noted the flow patterns that are going up the chin, defying gravity. This is also consistent with her positioning. His bloodstains under her chin and over her chin are not consistent with her final resting place. Listen to that. Flow patterns are going up the chin, defying gravity. This is also consistent with her positioning. Bloodstains under her chin and over her chin are not consistent with her final resting place. Was blood coming from her mouth? Is that where the blood would come from? According to the autopsy report, there's no injuries to the mouth. This is more consistent with blood coming from the actual wound itself and going over the chin and into the mouth. All right? So you starting to get a picture? Are you getting the picture? Are you getting the picture? Okay, another photograph. Significant due to the absence of blood on the gray brassiere below the breast line. There's no blood stains observed on the shirt, nor the torso. This would be consistent with Abigail wearing, with which she was wearing at the time. Now the left hand, again, the left hand, no blood noted on the hand whatsoever. Now looking at the chin, just a close-up of how the blood flowed up and over around the chin, indicating she was moved at some point when the blood was still liquid. You can also see saturations on the sweatshirt, but no saturation or redness or any type on the sleeves. Okay? When you examined blood on the sleeves and cuffs, you didn't see discoloration, not in the crime scene photographs. When you say something about being moved or she was moved or moved, what movement do you see as illustrated by these photographs of Abigail Williams? And in order for these blood stains to have occurred and the appearance of flow patterns, it appears as though that Abigail's head would have had to have gone back, or the blood source would have had to been above her head in order to create these flow patterns that go over the chin. All right. So let's take a little detour. Hold on. Let me Let me pull this down just a moment. So, are you seeing? And I want to thank everyone who's coming in. I'm sorry I can't talk much with you right now. Listen, what I want to talk about right quick is just a generalized picture and the contradictions here. First of all, lack of blood. Okay, there seems to be a lack of blood, right, with both girls, particularly Abby. Also, while she was still bleeding and did have some blood, she was somewhat upside down at some point. All right? Are you seeing the pattern here? Okay, so where both girls end up, there's not much blood. There are signs on both bodies that the bodies had been moved from another point. So wherever the point was before, that's where the blood loss occurred. And then where they end up, there's very little blood loss, and the blood patterns reveal that their bodies had been contorted in different positions on the way from A to B, is what I would assume. And I would assume we're having a very significant loss of blood, particularly with Abby, that's missing. So, in other words, with Abby, are you trying to tell me that all 100% of Abby's blood is soaked into the back of her sweatshirt? Are we supposed to believe that? How much blood does a human body hold? I mean, a lot. Okay. My neighbor, okay, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, my neighbor fell on the sidewalk. She's an old lady. You know, old ladies have fragile skin, thin skin. So the old lady fell just from the fall and her hurting herself a little. There was a enormous amount of blood there on the sidewalk. So, how much blood do you think a single sweatshirt can hold? Let's be real here. Have you ever tried to saturate a towel with water? It's pretty easy to saturate that towel. I know this. If I spill a cup of water, 8 ounces of water, and I bring a large bath towel and set it over the water, it's pretty much going to saturate, right? So if you have a girl that's lost a majority of her blood and only a little is saturating the back of the sweater, where's the rest of that blood? Okay, same with Libby. Libby's lost a lot of blood, but a lot of Libby's blood is pooled over there. There's some of her blood pooled over there. Is it all pooled over there? All right, so let's continue because it gets worse. And let me actually do something before we go. Let's see. Come on, Prof. Prof, kind of busy right now. Let's see. See how quickly I can get this. All right. All right. So let's take a look at this before we read the next section. But I got to say, before moving on, it's looking like those girls are not like in other words, remember the story of McClellan that Abby hides the phone as she's expiring? Yeah, didn't happen. You know, let's be honest here. Didn't happen. Okay, didn't happen. Uh, where's all her blood? If she's hiding the phone as she's expiring because she's a hero and also a genius, and she's putting a shoe and a phone under her body as she's expiring because she's a hero, Where did she leave all her blood, and how did she end up upside down at some point? All right, so let's continue. Which one was it? Is it this one? Okay, here we go. I want to go back to this photograph, and that's the one I just showed you of the tree. Did you consider how you believe the best explanation for the blood on the tree, which is the left part of this diagram? Based upon the blood evidence and the context of this scene, the bloodletting occurred somewhere in this general area, because blood, especially to the injuries that were to Liberty German, and all this blood that's on the outside of these different locations, this is not scale diagram. This all belongs to Liberty German, from what I remember of the port. So her blood's everywhere, is what he's saying. I'll put it in simple terms for you. He's saying Liberty's blood is everywhere. Then he's saying, except for the blood near the body or under the body of Abigail Williams, are you saying all the blood, according to your review of the reports, was whose blood? Liberty German's. So the bloodletting event would have occurred somewhere here, the beginning of it. And this is the result of both carotid arteries being breached, as well as the jugular vein. Blood would be almost instantaneous, okay? But it's a normal reaction. From my experience in observing others who were victims, that the victim or decedent would put their hands in the area of the blood loss, hence staining your hands. And we observed the hands on Liberty German's hands. What the? So what you saw in Liberty's hands is what you're accustomed to seeing at homicide scenes, death scenes? With that type of breach of such an artery, or both arteries and the jugular vein, yes, we would see a lot of blood on both the hands. Okay. Can you tell the jury, Major Cicero, where you believe the best explanation for where you believe Liberty would have been when she was injured, wounded, and where she moved from that point to where she was found? She would have been injured here initially in this vicinity, indicates. Movement would have been made, would have been to this location where again she continued to bleed. And here, this is a very large pooling that you saw. The coagulation is where Liberty German most likely succumbed to her injuries. And which part of your body or her body do you think was most likely, where do you think it was positioned in relation to the pool? It's likely that her positioning of the neck would be in this general vicinity, her head and neck in this general vicinity for the blood pooling to have occurred. The subsequent blood stains that you see between the pooling and her body was a result of Liberty most likely being dragged to that location and transferring the blood. And considering the photographs and your visit to the scene, can you tell the jury what would have been from the perspective of the creek, Liberty German's body, would Liberty German's body have been exposed, more exposed if it were at the large pool or behind the tree? And what the? That doesn't make sense to me, but I'll keep going. So her movement there adjacent to the tree, was she in that position where she was found? Would her body be more visible or less visible to someone from the perspective of the creek? At her current location, she'd be less visible because the tree is actually almost like two trees. It's a very wide base, and the two trees kind of separate off. I'm going to ask you, Major Cicero, the same question about Abigail Williams, about her movement, where you believe she was when she was injured, when her neck was cut, and where she moved until she succumbed to those injuries. Based upon the lack of blood evidence anywhere else but this location, the best explanation is she succumbed at this location here where she's observed. And where do you believe she was, given the evidence that you reviewed of the blood on her and the injuries where the blood was not? Where do you believe she was when her throat was cut? Based upon the blood-stained evidence, the context of the scene, she was at this location. In what position, sir? She was most likely in the supine position. As she was found? As she was found. Have you observed crime scenes with victims suffering neck injuries, either this type or even less serious? Yes. What is unusual to you? Is there anything unusual about the lack of blood on the hands of Abigail Williams? It's very unusual not to have blood on the hands. In this case, also the sleeves, which were over the hands at the time. There's no information or evidence to show that she died immediately. This would have taken some time. How many times have you seen in cases where there's been serious neck injuries where there's no blood on the victim's hands? I've never seen it. Not from an artery like that or massive blood loss wound. They would always have some type of transfer stains on their hands or in their clothing. In Abigail Williams' case, it was a vein. Do you agree? Yes, it was a jugular vein that was breached. What would be the explanation as to why there's no blood that you can discern on the sleeves and cuffs and no blood on the hands of Abigail Williams? There could be multiple explanations, such as she was bound. What? But there's no evidence of that. Pathology would be the one to tell us if she potentially was unconscious or if she was restrained. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to take a break. Okay. Mr. Cicero, with regard to Abigail Williams, do you consider whether she was like all the garments on her body were placed on her body after death? Were you asked to examine whether that was? Yes, I was. And now dealing with the upper clothing, which we know was the black bra, the gray bra, the pink top, and the sweatshirt. What's your opinion about whether she was wearing those items at the time she was killed? It's my opinion, based upon my review of the clothing saturation, that she was wearing it at the time she was killed. Why do you conclude that? The saturation stains were primarily on the interior portion of the sweatshirt. If she was completely naked at the time and dressed after the fact, we would expect to see the blood transferred to other parts of the clothing on the upper body as well as her body itself. Also, dressing a person who is deceased after the fact with bloodstains on the head, the chin, dressing, someone would most likely alter those stains, alter the stains on her mouth as well. Did you see any sign or indication that happened? No, I saw no sign like that. Are you familiar with the term core body temperature? Yes, I am. And what's that? It's like when investigators, like crime scene investigators, obtain a core body temperature at the time of death to evaluate what's referred to as algor mortis, the cooling of the body, which, as a rule of thumb by textbooks, appears to be approximately 1.5 degrees per every hour of cooling. And what methods are used when core body temp is taken? For at least crime scene investigators or coroners at the scene, the only known method I'm aware of is that somewhat accurate would be rectal temperature, sir. And you've been a crime scene investigator, right? Yes. And you've taught crime scene investigation? Yes. And you've been tested on it? Yes. Would you recommend, should the officers at this crime scene have taken a body core temperature via the rectum of either girls? Based upon this investigation, I would say no. This is only because inserting something like an object like a thermometer into someone's rectum could potentially, one, create injury, where it's my understanding in reviewing this case, there was concern for sexual assault, and also you never want to introduce anything that would potentially affect potential DNA in a sexual assault. Regarding predation and entomology, you know what I mean by those terms? Yes, you define entomology. What do we mean by predation? In this context, sorry, in this context, predation is animal activity that would consume a decedent. And would you have any experience in studying uh, predation and having experience with studies of bodies out in the open environment such as these? Yes. So my experience and tenure at University of Tennessee Anthropological Research Facility, which is also known as the Body Farm. Yes, again, I've been there 18 years and primarily I do entomology. But part of entomology studies is how entomology is affected by predation. What we've learned over the years is that when predation does occur, it creates a blood source for the entomological specimens to be attracted to. Normally, entomology, that is the blowfly, is attracted to the nose, mouth, and ears, and the eyes when someone passes. Where there's a blood source, when there's a blood source, the flies detect that and they will lay their eggs in there as well. Did you see any signs of entomology, of blowfly activity with relation to these victims in all the crime scene photos and reports you reviewed? No, I did not. All right. So he goes into all of that about the predation. We'll skip some of that because I want to get back to right. Baldwin, I think it's Auger. Jennifer Auger goes into haranguing him about the that he only looked at photographs. That's pretty interesting. We'll skip that. Um, and then we're going to get into all right, let's get to this right here. It says, now you said several of the flow patterns on Liberty's face were not consistent with her final resting spot. Correct. And what do you mean by that? At some point, her neck was above her chin? Yes. Her head would have been back at some point based upon the prints of those flow patterns. So her torso, her neck were above her face. I would agree, yes. So someone lifted her body to create that. Well, someone would have lifted it, yes. For her neck to be lower than her body, yes. Okay, and the same with Abby's body? Not necessarily. Okay, well, you testified earlier that the flow pattern was not consistent with her final resting spot. Correct. And you testified she died on the spot where she was. Yes, ma'am. So that's where her wound seems to have occurred. Yes. And so for the flow pattern to be altered, at some point her torso, her neck had to be raised. When I answered the question, I was talking about her being lifted. I don't know if she was lifted or not, but yes, her positioning would have been her neck was or her chin was lower than the actual injury itself, or she could have been turned or based on the flow pattern, her neck back, because bodies can articulate in so many ways. It's hard to tell as how the positioning was exactly. But in order for blood to flow, it's going to have to be below, her chin's going to have to be below the neck. So at some point, the neck gets higher and her body was never moved? No. Okay. So you see the cognitive dissonance. So here, let me pull this down again. So I want to just take a second to emphasize this point. So do you notice what Auger is wrestling with here? Because he's contradicting himself. So what she's saying is, look, you're saying that there are flows going this way. In other words, coming from here around and up over the chin on both girls. He agrees, yes. So you're saying at some point the torso's above the head of both girls and the blood's flowing over up and over the chin. Yes. And you're saying both girls therefore at some point were positioned this is basically saying at some point both girls are upside down. Yes. But you're saying that only Libby was moved and Abby perished in the spot. Right? So how do you explain? So I guess the cognitive dissonance is, how do you explain the fact that her torso is over her head, but you're saying at the same time she doesn't move from the spot? And you're trying, it's like they're trying to stretch, she's trying to stretch and come up with some theory as to how she articulated her body in such a way that she gets her head all the way backwards and upside down with the torso over where the wound is bleeding up and over the chin. And at the same time, only leaves a little blood on the inside of the sweatshirt. Mm-mm. Something's not right. You see? Something's not right. Furthermore, Jennifer Auger also highlighted the fact that Libby was 200 pounds. So you're trying to tell the jury that someone was able to grab this 200-pound girl and position her in a way that she's upside down at some point as she's being moved from where the major blood loss occurred to where she's positioned by the tree? There's a lot of You see how the logic is starting to not make sense here? There's further logic that doesn't make sense. So don't even let me get into Dr. Core, because you did see the the Maku series, as I called it, the Hulu Maku series, where Dr. Roland Core said, "It's my opinion that Abby died first." Well, that's odd because Nicholas McClellan says, "It's my opinion that Abby died second." And as she's dying, she puts the phone under the body to hide it, to save it for the investigators, because they're both heroes and solved their own murders. You see how, listen, how many things, how much disbelief do we have to suspend in the Delphi murders case? It's just like we get back to this full circle to the how many coincidences do we have to accept in all of this thing? Goes into the hundreds. Well, how many, how many illogical steps are we supposed to accept? Just none of it makes sense. Okay, my point, none of it makes sense. But we're not done, because this is not even the red flags yet. All right, get back to it. So you see that clearly Nicholas McClellan is trying to come up with this narrative. So let's establish what court is, okay? So what he's trying to do, there are ends in mind. So Nicholas McClellan has these ends in mind. So one of the things he's wanting Cicero to say is that the bodies are placed in this depression, in this location, to hide them from the creek. Okay, that's one of the things he's going for. Tell us why where they're placed hides them from the view of the creek, which absolutely makes no sense. Who would be in the creek in February, as deep and as cold as the creek was in that February day? Who would be concerned about people being in the creek seeing the bodies? Seems like you'd be much more concerned about someone being on land looking down and seeing those bodies. Because who's going to go and get in that cold water randomly searching for two girls? You know, most people would be walking around the area, walking around Ron Logan's, down the hill, you know, or up from the ravine, but people would be searching that area in Ron Logan's property proper. They wouldn't be in the creek. So this whole logic of that they're placed there, that Richard Allen places them there to hide them from the creek, it's totally senseless. But let's keep it on. Let's keep it on. So Auger kills him, by the way. Listen, y'all, I know that I highly criticize these attorneys, but I got to say, look, Jennifer Auger kills him in this cross exam. You got to go read it yourself. I'm not going to go through all of it. Because notice at the bottom where she slays him with this one, 23. If someone wanted to conceal the bodies, there are plenty of leaves at the scene. Agreed? Agreed. And she says, plenty of sticks at the scene? I don't know about other sticks, but I can't say there wasn't. Okay, and you've actually seen bodies in your experience that have even been concealed by licks and Steves and licks, leaves and sticks? Yes, I have. But maybe 3% of those bodies were covered by sticks? If you're looking top down, yes. How much of the actual body was covered? Which part of the body, ma'am? If you take all of Libby's body, which percentage was covered by a stick? Very small, very small amount. And the same with Abigail Williams? Agreed, yes, ma'am. Boy, boy, boy. Boy, boy, boy. Okay, number two here. You've testified that the lack of blood, you've never seen a lack of blood such as was on Abigail Williams' hands in the death investigation involving a neck. Correct. And that could be by multiple people holding her down. If there's multiple people, yes. Could it be by someone washing her hands afterwards? I'm sorry. Could that lack of blood on Abigail Williams' hands be by someone washing her hands afterwards? Someone washing her hands, ma'am? I can't rule it out. In your work as a crime scene investigator, have you ever photographed cartridges of a crime scene? Yes, several times. Okay, she goes into the cartridge. I'm going to skip. So, back on redirect, Luttrell asks, consider all of the photographs that you saw both at the scene autopsy. Consider the crime scene, not just the diagrams, but the actual photos. Putting all that together, do you believe Liberty was dragged across a bloody pool to the site where she was found? Yes. Why? There's blood staining that extends from the coagulation to her final location. There's blood staining on the right side of her body and on the bottom of her leg that would have been drugged through that to create this. So, yes, I didn't see the drag marks, but I can state that being there at the scene was also beneficial. There's multiple thick layers of leaf fall. It was very thick. You may not see drag marks because the leaves are on her leg because of the adhesive nature of the blood. Do you believe her left arm extended above her head next to the tree was in a natural position where she would collapse or fall? No. I theorized or hypothesized, that is, that her arm was used as a mechanism to pull her through the large blood stain, the pooling. Bull crap, bull crap, bull crap. Okay. Um, so he comes up with some wild hypothesis about how if she's sitting and her neck is cut, that her neck would go backward and then therefore leave that drip that's going up the chin. Bull crap, bull crap. Okay, bull crap. I mean, come on. Let's see what else. Okay, you were asked about a tree being called an F tree, and you said you were familiar that someone had called it that. Yes, but you didn't. Yes, I called it an upside down L. And the only reason I did that was because the lower horizontal part of an F didn't connect. So I said, well, that's an L, that's not an F. But I can see why investigators called it an F because of the hue or tone of the bark appeared reddish. But when we added leucocrystal violet, it stains the actual blood, and we had a separate little transfer stain that I interpreted as a pattern transfer. When you say the best explanation is that it was a transfer application, a transfer contact with a bloody object to that tree, did you have a bloody object in mind as the best answer for that? Okay, let me see if I can do this. All right, y'all. Here's where my problem is. When I'm saying that this guy lied to the jury, all of that prior was to give you little nuggets about the crime scene and how the blood didn't make sense, that the blood is going up both chins. Also, what doesn't make sense is Abigail has zero blood on her hands, zero blood on her sleeves, and only a little blood on the inside of the sweatshirt. Okay. Zero cents, right? But here's what's alarming because I want you to look at this again. Okay. Because this is where the lies, the blatant lies come in. Look at this. All right. Look at it. Right angles. Okay. Now, I'll give it to you. If you look down in the bottom right hand corner, okay, bottom right hand corner, there appears to be a drip. Yes, in the bottom right hand corner, there appears to be a drip. Okay, but look at the center of the photograph. Look at the center of the photograph. It's an absolutely straight line going from top to bottom, absolutely perfectly straight. Look at the top portion of the photograph. There's an absolutely straight line. Now, if you were to really look, it almost appears to be a T. If you really look closely, it's almost as if a T was attempted, but that because of the rough nature of the bark, the that was making contact with the tree skipped over a small portion of the bark so that it does not make a complete T shape. But basically, it appears to me that the attempt here was to make a T. Okay. Now, furthermore, if you look both to the left and to the right of this T shape, or to at least to the vertical, if you're looking at the vertical line for a moment, both to the left and to the right of this vertical straight line, there appears what might be splatter or drops. Okay? So I think we're looking at several different type of markings here. I think we're looking at two direct paintings or transfer stains that were done like this. Okay? In the shape of a T. It's my opinion this may have been done with a finger or a stick. And it looks like, additionally, there are drips. There are several drips, both to the left and to the right, that may have been incidental as having something saturated in blood. So if it's a hand that's saturated in blood, several of the fingers are saturated in blood. You're painting with one of the fingers. Well, those other fingers are free to drip. Okay? If it's some sort of device like an implement, like a stick or something that's being used to do this, which I doubt, but something like that, that implement could also be so saturated with blood that it's dripping. There may have also been two separate applications. So if something's dipped in blood and then makes a mark and then returns to dip again into some blood and make a secondary mark, all of that motion back and forth could cause drips. So that's what I'm seeing. But at an absolute minimum, a bare minimum, you have to be able to acknowledge that you're looking at two things which makes zero sense of what you're about to hear. And one of them is that you have perfectly straight lines. You have two perfectly straight lines at a minimum. That's one layer of cognitive dissonance. The second layer of cognitive dissonance is these two perfectly straight lines intersect at a 90-degree angle. So what you have here is a right angle that is formed from two perfectly straight lines, possibly even two right angles if the intent here was a T shape. So you tell me, based upon what you're about to hear, how in the hell do you end up with not one perfectly straight line, but two perfectly straight lines laid at a right angle to each other? Okay, so let's continue now that you've seen that. And full disclosure, I have applied filters to this photograph to highlight the shadows, to give more lighting, and to highlight the blood, because this was clearly taken at night with a flash. You can see that it's taken at night with the flash. Okay, this is taken at night because the processing of the crime scene went on into the nighttime. So this is taken at night with a flash and has furthermore been further processed as I filter. Well, you can also see it's a photo. Let's be clear here too. This is not a digital photograph. This is a printed photograph which has been digitally photographed. Okay, so if you check it out, you'll see that if you look very closely, you can see that this is a printed photograph sitting on a desk on top of other papers. Okay? Well, let's get back to this because here's where it's going to get bizarre. When you say the best explanation is what a transfer application was, a transfer contact with a bloody object to the tree, do you have a bloody object in mind as the best answer for that? And here you go where there's the collusion, where you're getting to the what McClelland's end goal was to tell us how this was made such that we exclude anyone else doing it. And here's what he says: based upon the volume of the tree, the volume of the blood upon the tree, and the available voluminous stains that would have been on the decedent's body, its height upon the tree, as well, we hypothesized that it was potentially her hand, which had a voluminous amount of stains on it. Could have been maybe part of her arm. So we created a hypothesis that that's what created this. Okay? All right? Again, I said that since when are law enforcement officers allowed to take the stand with the full weight, authority, and credibility of the state of Indiana and the police, the state police of Indiana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? They're able to take the stand and misrepresent reality to a jury in order to obtain a conviction. But I want you to look at that, okay? You look at it. Do you honestly believe that this is Libby's arm? So Libby has blood on her arm and she bumps into the tree and this is the result? Do you believe that this is her hand and that she's blood on her hand and she goes and steadies herself on the tree and this is a result? How stupid do you have to be to believe that either her bloody arm as she's stumbling makes contact with this tree and forms this, or that her bloody hand as she's stumbling and goes to steady herself makes contact with the tree and forms this? Surely nobody in their right mind, even the troll farm, even the prosecution, even any officer of the Indiana State Police, surely no one in their right mind would believe that some 200-pound young female victim who's just been brutally cut across the neck and has reached for the injury would steady herself on a tree in any sort of way whatsoever and create this shape. Hey, also, I know there's probably a few painters in this house. Okay. I've done some in my time. I've painted ceramics when I was a little youngster. I had to go to ceramics class. I painted watercolors with the kids. I'm familiar with using a paintbrush and how paint moves. Okay. Paint always moves like this, more to less, right? Think about it. Some of you have experience making art, okay? When you're making art, whether you're doing finger paints, you're using a brush, anything, when you saturate the brush or the implement with a fluid that's viscous, like paint, and when you smear the paint or the viscous fluid, it could be jelly, it could be anything. As you first make contact with the surface, there's more of the material, there's more of the paint, there's more of the blood, there's more of whatever is on the brush or the finger or whatever. And as you drag that across the surface, it gradually lessens because as you're moving the brush across the surface, the paint is being left behind, distributed onto the surface. So as you look at it, you may be familiar as a painter, it's going to be wider. You're going to have a thicker application where you start the brush, and as you complete that stroke, you're going to have less and less and less. Well, look at this. Okay, look at this. You can clearly tell whether it's the vertical or the horizontal stroke. You can tell that on both of these strokes, there's more of the blood at one portion and less of the blood at another portion, which almost tells you the direction of the motion of the implement that applied this blood to the tree. Am I foolish? You have two perfectly straight lines. They intersect at a right angle, and you have on one end of each line a thicker application than the other end, as if while that blood is being transferred, it's leaving the finger or leaving the brush or stick or whatever it is. It's leaving and it's adhering to the tree, and there's less and less and less. But once again, let's bring it back to your esteemed detective from the Indiana State Police, who says that as she's stumbling around the crime scene, here it is. We hypothesized it was potentially her hand, or it could have been maybe part of her arm. Really? Really? Is this what you're allowed to say to a jury?
Bruh.
All right. So there's that. All right. So next up, let's see. I want to do this next part and get it over with. All right, here we go. I bring your attention to the direct examination of Master Trooper Brian Harshman. Master Trooper, employed by the Indiana State Police for 30 years. Remember, he's giving here his resume. I told you they always do this, right? They always do this. They're going to they're going to explain their authority to the court. Okay, so he goes and he explains that he's a 30-year Indiana State Police. Okay, Master Trooper Brian Harshman, and he gives his whole deal, right? He gives his whole deal. So let's let's forward because I want to bring you. Like I said, I'm not going to belabor the point. You all can go and do this yourself if you want to read his entire examination. But what we're going to do here, we're going to get to the meat of the matter, which is we're going to get to the absolute jaw dropping stunt that he was allowed to pull uh, due to probably the pleading of Nicholas McClellan behind closed doors. Okay, watch what he gets to do here. All right. I think it's page 29 or so. Because everything else is not so alarming. Okay, but here's what is alarming. Let's back it up here. Okay. So okay, at the how would I say this? At the ending portion of his direct exam by McClelland, this is where the stunt happens. Okay. Let's see. I know my page turner is not working properly. All right, here we go. 27 is where it is. So he says, you've had an opportunity. This is McClelland. Okay, this is McClelland fishing out this particular end game. Remember, I said how everything is always with an end goal in mind. Check this one out. You've had an opportunity to review this video we played in court today. Is that correct? Yes, sir. And you've had an opportunity to listen to hundreds of thousands of hours of Richard Allen's phone calls. Is that correct? Hundreds of thousands of hours. They really tried that. They really tried that. Hundreds of thousands of hours of Richard Allen's phone calls. Is that correct? Exaggerate much? That's correct. And Rozzy says, whoa, buddy judge, I'm going to object. No. With all due respect, he didn't listen to hundreds of thousands of hours. That's not consistent with his testimony. Sustained. There's a little bit of drama here. You listen to how many hours of his phone calls? Correct? Many. Over 700 phone calls? Correct. You had an opportunity to review the video, correct? Correct. Did you recognize the voice of the male individual on the video? Yes. And who is that voice? Or who do you believe that voice is? The voice is Richard Allen. I don't have any other questions, Judge. You see? You see what I mean about how this circus went down? That this law enforcement officer, this Indiana State Police master trooper with 30 years experience, who listened to hundreds of thousands of hours, 700 hours, 700 phone calls of Richard Allen, he was allowed to take the stand and give his willy-nilly opinion. This is not an expert opinion. Okay? In other words, is Brian Harshman, Master Trooper, Indiana State Police, 30 years? Is he a forensic voice analysis expert? Is he a linguist? Is he a forensic linguist? So think of how this works. Okay, this is the direct exam of Brian Harshman. The direct exam starts off, okay? Escalates, builds. 29 pages later, at its absolute pinnacle, McClelland says, whose voice is in that video? Who do you believe it is? And his reply is, the voice is Richard Allen. And that's the finale of the direct exam of Brian Harshman. So let me ask you, what's the end goal there? Because I guarantee you, before this trial, as they were consulting and having their little powwows, I guarantee you, he said, look, as long as you do this, say it is Richard Allen. So I'm going to ask you some questions. And when we get to the question, I say, whose voice is it? As long as you get out, it is Richard Allen. Whether they object or not doesn't matter. As long as you get that out into the jury's ears. And that's exactly what happened. And it's there in black and white. Okay, and we knew it. We knew it from the reporting from attendees of trial. They came out. This was one of the major red flags on this day. When they came out and they said, oh my God, he literally said he listened to 700 phone calls and that, in his opinion, the voice is Richard Allen. And remember, as I'm criticizing this moment, remember, put yourself in Richard Allen's shoes. And here you have an Indiana State Police master trooper, 30 years experience with the full weight credibility of the Indiana State Police behind him. Someone the jury's supposed to believe. Someone who has credibility, authority, no reason to lie. All of the above. He's allowed to sit on the stand in this circus, and at the absolute peak of his direct exam, he's allowed to say, line number 15, the voice is Richard Allen. I'm sorry. It's wrong. It is just wrong. I mean, why didn't he just ask him who he looked like? Would have been the same difference, right? In your opinion, you've seen Richard Allen, right? You've seen pictures of Richard Allen, right? Yeah. Well, in your opinion, when you see this bridge guy, who does he look like? It is Richard Allen. Could have been the same thing, right? But they didn't need that piece because the piece they had for that was that he placed himself in a blue or black jacket and blue jeans. So they didn't need Brian Harshman at this point to visual assert visually that it's him. They needed him to assert auditorily that it's his voice. They needed him to say, "Yeah, I've heard 700 phone calls, and yeah, it's his voice. That's absolutely." Okay. Now it gets worse. It always gets worse. This is Delphi. And the way we're gonna get into this is gonna be interesting for you guys. Thanks to everyone coming in. Everyone coming in, please do support the channel. Hit the goal icon up at the top of the chat. You can help us reach our goal of 15 super chats of $1.99 or more. And also, I have the Cash App if you'd like to donate to the channel and support me. I do need your support because this has been a very difficult summer with support for the channel. So please do, if you're able to support the channel, please send me a Cash App or any other, buy me a coffee, any other way you'd like to support the channel. Hit the like, support the channel. Even if you're on the replay, this will be up for the replay. If you're on the replay, please hit the like. Please leave a comment below. And if you feel so inclined, please support the channel, support our work, support my work. It's a lot of work and it's never ending. And thank you for the support. All right, so we're going to look at Tony Leggett, okay? Now, remember I said it only gets worse, so let's continue. This proves to you here we're at the direct exam of Tony Leggett, okay? Now we're going to move forward to the point where we need to be. Um, there's so, and let me be honest, I'll tell you this. We will probably come back to this transcript of Tony Liggett at a future point because there's a lot in here I want to cover with the ammunition, the weapon, the ballistics, the round found at the scene. There's a bunch of stuff with the gun that I want to cover. Okay, but we'll get back to this later because I have a theory, and I think Tony Liggett. Well, we'll get to it later. Okay, so let's continue. I want to get to this point here where we need to go. Um, let's see. What am I doing here? Get on track, Prof. I think it's also about page 27. But you can see McClellan throwing tantrums here, as usual. When it gets thick, he throws tantrums. Um, all right, so I think we're getting here. What did I skip it yet? Oh, rats! Come on, man. Uh, Let me do this. I'm going to need to search with the search tool. I'm going to have to search and find this particular page I'm looking for. Apologize for the goofiness here. Let's see. I mean, look, it happens, right? It happens. Let's say. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I skipped it. I knew it. I knew it. Okay. Hey, it's an amateur operation over here. I'm just figuring this out as we go, we're 3 years in. All right. Where are we? Why do I still not see it? Oh, Jesus. Hold on. What's going on here with my confusion? Come on, Prof. Well, here we go. Okay. All right. Okay. Just a moment. There's another thing. Let's read it. So McClellan asks Tony Liggett, how many times do you think you've viewed the video? Hundreds of times. And if you have you viewed it on different devices? I have. I've listened to it on my laptop. I've listened to it with external speakers. The best way that I listen to it is with headphones on. And why is that the best way to listen to it? It cuts out all the noise, anything, just ambient noise around you as well, so you can hear things better. Okay? And when you've listened to the video and viewed the video, have you formed an opinion about what is said in the video? Yes. And after listening to the video and forming that opinion, can you tell the jury what you hear in the video? So it when the video starts, the first words that I hear Abigail Williams say as she's walking across the bridge is she says, "Is he right there? Is he right here?" Okay, so write that down in your notebook. Is he right here? Is he right here? Is he right there? Is he right here? Next, Abigail Williams says, "Don't leave me up here. Don't leave me up here." And then Liberty German starts talking about, "See, this is the path." And then her tone of voice changes and she says, kinds of whispers, "That be a gun. That be a gun." And then she goes on to say that there's no path here, so we have to go down this way. And then you hear a male's voice say, guys. They respond with hi. You hear a gun rack. Again, then you hear the male's voice say, guys. They respond with hi. You hear a gun rack.
Bruh.
All right. Now, need I say any more? Listen, this is the most egregious lie that law enforcement was allowed to tell on the stand. Seriously. It's absolutely unbelievable that this was allowed. And again, if you don't think that this prosecutor had prearranged this with the sheriff, you got another thing coming, okay? Guaranteed they coached each other before trial, and the whole thing was we have to put a gun in this scenario. Okay. What's because I keep saying you have to understand they're going for an end game. Okay. So the end goal here is they have to put a gun in this scenario. Right? Right? So the way they put a gun in this scenario is they change words that are clearly audible to any sensible human being, which is that we go down. See, this is the path that we go down. So scratch that, and a sheriff with the full weight of the state of Indiana, the integrity, the authority, and the gravity of the state of Indiana gets to take the stand as the sheriff of the locality where these girls were found, and he gets to take the stand and say that girl says, "See, this is the path that be a gun." Which you're about to hear in a second, is clearly not what's said. And then furthermore, to to solidify it, they further claim that then you hear the sound of a gun racking. Right? That be a gun combined plus the sound of a gun racking equals a gun has now entered the scenario at that point. We have now interjected a gun into this scenario. And the way that's accomplished is the sheriff thinks he hears that be a gun and then thinks he hears a gun rack. Or in terms of the jury, the sheriff says, the girl says, that's be a gun, and then a gun is racked. Okay? Absolutely inconceivable that that was allowed. Absolutely inconceivable. Mm, let's see. Oh, let's see. Where is it? come on, Profi. All right, here we go.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
All right, so clearly there's no gun being racked. Okay, let's go, let's reverse engineer this. There's zero sound of a gun being racked. Period. There's leaves and sticks crunching under their feet, and rocks, gravel. All right. Furthermore, what you hear is a female voice saying, "See, this is the path that we go down." Let's again. Well, let's do this. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to start with this.
See, this is the path that we go down.
See, this is the path that we go down.
See, this is the path. See, this is the. See, this is the. See, this is.
Anyone here is he still there? Is he right here? Like, you're hearing anything like that, or is it totally inaudible? Because this that I'm playing for you is my audio exploration of what Abby's saying. If it's Abby or whoever, this other voice that they're wanting us to believe is Abby, you cannot make out a single thing that she's saying, and I tried my hardest. Okay, so any mention, so Tony Liggett says, quote unquote, "Don't leave me up here." No, no. Is he right there? Is he right here? Is he right there? Is he right here? Don't leave me up here. Is he right there? Is he right here? Don't leave me up here. Now you tell me, listen to this and see what you hear. You just can't make it out. Okay, you can't make it out. She's saying something, but who knows what the fuck she's saying? Like she could be saying something's coming, someone's coming. Don't anyone like there's the audio version of pareidolia. The more you listen, you're projecting, you're trying to fill in the blanks. It's a cognitive thing. You're trying to fill in what you think it could be, it should be. just going to pause it temporarily just to remind you that Tony Leggett. Okay, sorry. Tony Leggett says she's saying, is he right there? Is he right here? Don't leave me up here. Is he right there? Is he right here? Don't leave me up here. I don't know, man. Like, if we're going to fantasize what's being said here, it sounds much more like Kelsey's coming or something along those. I'd say 10 times more likely that she's saying Kelsey's papa, Kelsey's coming, or Kelsey's down there. But I mean, dude, come on. Let's be honest here. Tony Leggett is allowed as the head of unified command over this investigation to assert the full credibility, authority, and weight of the state of Indiana and the state police, et cetera, and the sheriff's department and all of this other shit, the integrity, the respectability, the authority of law enforcement. You know, put yourself in the juror's shoes. He's allowed to sit there and say, oh yeah, she says, is he right there? Is he right here? Don't leave me up here. And then that be a gun in a gun racks. So let's hear some more. Let's focus in on the next half of this.
See, this is the path that we go down.
See, this is the path that we go down. I mean, that was so clear with that equalization there. It's so clear.
There's no path going there, so we have to go down here.
Okay, now what I'm going to get into now is I'm going to hyperfixate or focus in on this male voice or these male voices, whatever it is with the guys down the hill. We're about to zoom in to guys down the hill. So get focused on guys down the hill, because that's what I'm about to focus in on, okay?
Down
Okay, guys, in that particular place, the reason you can hear really clearly that it's leaves at this very moment. So that's why I changed it towards the end. I pulled down all those other frequencies, just let you hear the leaves. So check that out. You can hear that it's leaves when you pull down those lower frequencies. See, there's no gun racking. There's no gun racking. It's all leaves. Okay. But let's continue because I might as well show you some other pieces here. Let's go. Let me see if this works. Whoops, and I crashed. And I crashed. So just a moment, I'll get it back. I'll get this back. Okay. I'm gonna search for
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here.
Okay, so what I'm going to be doing here is panning from left to right. I'm taking a close look at the stereo image because we want to see what's the difference between what the left channel and the right channel picked up, and what can we kind of discern from the spatial capture of the left versus right.
See, this is the path that we are on. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Path that we are on. The path. See, this is the path that we are on. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi. See, this is the path that we are on. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi. 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 See, this is the path that we are on. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. See, this is the path that we go down. See, this is the
Okay, how am I sounding now? Is my sound back together? Let's see. Check, check. Oh man, come on. All right, so here's what I think. There's no way the phone is picking up Abby. It's not Abby. Okay. Isn't it? Sounds to me like someone so I'm going back to the stereo imaging, okay? And combining it with what we just heard. And for me, the whispering voice is really close, okay? It's really close. The whispering voice is really close. The whispering voice is really close. It's I can't really make it out, but is he coming or secret? Something with the you know. Um, so there's that. But there's plenty of this, okay? There's plenty of this on my channel for you to go back and listen at your leisure, and also with earbuds in and headphones. You know, try it. It's very difficult because I'm manipulating the whole spectrum of audio. But what's pretty interesting too, the one I won't show you now, is that uh, is that you can very clearly hear a vehicle. Uh, I'm not going to go through going dig that up and playing that one, but it's very clear that there's a vehicle in. Oh shit! Maybe I'll do it on the way out. Okay, I'll do it as we end. But my point in displaying all of this is to bring it back full circle to what I was saying. You had Tony Liggett. Remember his position, okay? Like I would like you all to thoroughly um, remind yourself. Let me see which one is him. Let's see. No, that's not it. Where is it? Of course, it would be the last one. It'd be the last one I try. Let's see. Okay, again, look at the bottom of the page here. So you'd have Tony Liggett with his position, his elevated position. You understand? He's the central figure of unified command. Sheriff, really high up guy. Let's see if I can again, let's see. I'm the Carroll County Sheriff. Okay. I've been in law enforcement 23 years. I've been at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. All law enforcement officers in Indiana are required. I've done numerous investigation trainings from basic firearm trainings, things like that. Da 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 da. And I was a detective and I was involved in this and I blah 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 and I was behind this and da 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 and you know, but then he's allowed to the jury to claim that Abby is saying, is he right there? Is he right here? Don't leave me up here. And that Libby says, see, this is the path. That be a gun. There's no path here. So we have to go down this way. And then you hear a voice say, guys, and they say hi, and you hear a gun rack. A totally fictional scenario. I mean, 90% of that is fabricated, it's made up, it's a lie. How is that acceptable in a court of law? A double homicide, two kids. Let's refresh our memory. Pat Cicero was allowed, right? He was allowed to sit up there and uh, and say that the marking on the tree was Libby's hand and our arm. You know, her hand, our arm. Let me find it again. Remember my deal. Remember my deal crashed. Right. So Pat Cicero is allowed to say, this mark that you're observing, just think about that. Just let's pretend that you've never heard of this case before, ever. You're not on the side of the prosecution, you're not on the side of the defense, you're just interested in the case, and all you know is that someone throws this photos, puts it up in your face, and says to you, yeah, this mark right here was made by a bloody victim, uh, either touching the tree with their hand as they're stumbling or bumping into the tree with their arm as they're stumbling. What would you think? Okay. And then furthermore, Brian Harshman was allowed to sit on the stand as a cop and say, yeah, I listened to 700 phone calls and the voice is Richard Allen. The voice that we just heard, that we could not distinguish much. Remember, everything in that audio is pretty unclear. Everything in the video is pretty unclear. So with all of that ambiguity, he's allowed, as a cop, a 30 years master trooper, Brian Harshman, to sit there and say, yeah, it's Richard Allen. So just think that the point of our show tonight, remember, tonight's show is Friday Night Fights. What did I call it? Tony Liggett's, Pat Cicero's, and Brian Harshman's bullshit, where you had three esteemed law enforcement officers were allowed to sit on the stand in the court of law and tell the jury total fabrications. Three. Yeah, don't worry. There's no cult. No one drew a shape on the tree. This is all just the victim bloody and bumping into the tree. Nothing to worry about here. Oh yeah, yeah. And on the recording, also that guy. I mean that the girl says that be a gun, which she clearly does not say. And then the other one gets on and says, "Oh yeah, and by the way, that guy's voice, that's Richard Allen." And so, what kind of trial is that? What kind of trial is that? Remember how the jury views a law enforcement, especially the top guys with 20, 30 years experience, detectives, master troopers, sheriffs. Again, the drawing on the tree. Oh, don't worry. The victim bumped into the tree. Oh yeah, the girl said that be a gun, and then there's the sound of a gun racking. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's the voice of Richard Allen. All fabricated, fantasy, all specifically strategically designed to establish a certain narrative, a certain picture in the mind. And that picture in the mind led directly to Richard Allen. Just like saying, "Oh yeah, well he said he was wearing the same thing Bridge Guy is wearing," or just like the Patty's saying, "Oh yeah, well you see, Bridge Guy killed the girls, and Richard Allen was Bridge Guy." That Richard Bridge Guy killed the girls, and they proved Richard Allen was Bridge Guy. So that's my show for you tonight. I think it's just an absolute travesty. It's a miscarriage of justice. There's absolutely no way on earth this should ever be allowed. Because remember, put yourself in the accused's shoes. He's sitting in that courtroom and he sees these esteemed cops, one after the other, right in a row. Take the stand, tell a lie. Take the stand, tell a lie. Take the stand, tell a lie. And all of these lies lead the jury in only one inevitable direction, and that's prosecuting me for the Delphi murders. Why would they be okay with this? Or you got to tell. Let's be real here. Are you really wanting me to believe that each of these guys believes deep in their heart that what they said was true? I mean, does Cicero really believe that Libby bumped into the tree and this is the result right here? Really? Do you really believe that? Come on, man. Do you really believe that a gun is being racked and the girl says that be a gun? Do we really believe that you can even distinguish whose voice that is? It almost it's whatever you want to believe. That's what it is. This whole thing, it's just like, whatever you want to believe, go ahead, believe it. And we got a conviction. I think about what's the end game was. Well, hey, honestly, that's the deal with Doug Carter. At the press conference, remember the post sentencing press conference that was so egregious? I mean, it was the absolute, as if all of this wasn't disgusting already. They double and triple down at that post sentencing press conference. And they pulled the ugliest stunt so far, which is the doubling and tripling down on this. And Doug Carter says, yeah, if you don't like it, leave the country. As they all pat each other on the back. And how could you be proud of this? I mean, how could you be proud of it? This is the thing that boggles the mind. How could you be proud of this if you had to fabricate every piece of it? I mean, shame on the families. Shame on the families for accepting this. Shame on the families for accepting this. Because this right here does not give closure. It does not give peace. And it does not give justice to Abby and Libby. If you had to fabricate a case to get a conviction, that's not justice. And it's clear to me that there should be no way any of these three officers tonight who we've covered, none of them should have been allowed to say those things and what they said. And if all of that was necessary to secure a conviction, well then shame, shame, Shame. And shame on the families for accepting it, because those families will never know peace. The public will not give them the peace that they desire, because you got to get the right guys in the right way with the right evidence. Because the way you stack this deck and secure this conviction through deceit, through obstruction, and just crime. Remember, not only the judge not allowing a defense with all of the alarming evidence that existed, but the sheer destruction of evidence. So you get to destroy 70 days of evidence and untold amounts of evidence. Remember the Reese Davis letters they never let in, or wouldn't acknowledge. All the things they tried to withhold from the defense. Remember McClellan's like egregious withholding of discovery and disclosure of information. Just repeated miscarriages of due process. And these families will sit here with their chin held high, proud of that. It's nothing to be proud of. It's something to be ashamed of. And the public's not buying it. The public never will buy it. So any sort of closure you wanted from this, you ain't gonna get it. Like this sort of thing here, it doesn't provide closure. So to close, I'll say anyone with a conscience who was involved in this, it's never too late to step forward and say what you know. And I mean Unified Command, Indiana State Police, Carroll County, Delphi PD, FBI, prosecutor's office, judge's office, defense contingent, anybody with a conscience who wants to step up and do the right thing, there's always an opportunity to do so. And until then, we'll never have closure. And so if you're happy with that, congrats. You secured a conviction. Well, was the end worth the means? I don't think so. Um, but I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to try to do this. Let's see if I can do this. I want to thank everyone who was here tonight. Please support the channel. If you're on the replay, support the channel. If you're live chat, support the channel. I think we almost made our goal. We're 9 out of 15 towards our goal. So if you'd like to support the channel, support the channel. I also have all my support pathways all around. They're easy to find in this channel description, et cetera, et cetera. Hit the like. If you're on the replay, leave comments down below the video. We really appreciate that. And we will continue to discuss this case. And I want to thank everyone for being here. I'm going to leave out, hey, thank you, Granny D. And thank you, everyone in the chat. Hey, special shout out to Lisa, to Heather Brown, Bezo, Sweet Dude Shibby, Muty Silence, Housebroken, mm, Rainbow, Gilletta. Well, I saw Adrian was in here, Trial Junkie, Becky, Heather Brown, Miss K, Christine was in here, Bezo Jones. What's up, Bezo? And Samantha Springman, Sweet Dude Shibby still here. Lots of people still here hanging late. So thank you so much to everyone and all our supporters tonight. Kay Meary, Becky, Granny D, Dom S. What's up, Dom S? Deb, Marie Kelly, again, Christine, Diana, Rebecca Ann, Kate Eleanor renewed a membership. So thank you all for all of that. And hey, Deb. Um, and anyway, good night. I will leave you with this video here, which is the audio that I processed to try to highlight the vehicle. Oh, hey, Christina. Okay, Christina's here. Everyone's still hanging. So we're doing good. It's glad to see everybody on this Friday night. Tonight's show was the Prof Friday Night Fights, Round 11, the Delphi Mean Girls Discovery Leaks. Remember, go report the attorneys at the links we provided. And Tony Liggett's, Pat Cicero's, and Brian Harshman's Bullshit on the Stand. Okay, and that was our show for tonight, Saturday, August 9th, 2025. Really appreciate it. Please go watch some other stuff on the channel. There's so much for you to enjoy. Really appreciate it. Go subscribe at the Substack and everything. And I'm going to leave you with the sound of this vehicle, which is another thing that's incredible on this track, but there's so much. So we'll see you all later. And God bless everyone. Good night. And hey, hug your kids, hug your wife. Remember what the dude say? Let me grab it because it's my favorite thing to hear.
Well, obviously we have a rapist in Lincoln Park. He's climbing in your windows. He's snatching your people up, trying to rape them. So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
Bruh.
Good night.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. you.